Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome to the Medium's Table. I'm your host, Michelle Gardner. This podcast is your personal invitation to join me at the intersection of the everyday and the extraordinary. Together, we'll explore the magic of mediumship, share spiritual stories, and connect with fellow mediums on this incredible journey. So grab a seat, pour yourself a cuppa, and come join us at the Medium's Table, where spirits gather and stories unfold. Disclaimer, just a heads up to all our lovely followers. Our social media is a space where we share personal stories, including those of various mediums. Let's keep the vibe positive and respect each other's beliefs. Every journey is unique, and here we celebrate the diversity of experiences. I'd like to welcome to the show Emilia. Now, Emilia, you are a longtime friend. We've known each other, I'm going to say, decades. It's been decades. I actually don't know how long. It's got to be over 20 years.
Must be over 30 years, I think.
You reckon?
Has to be.
Now you're
surely.
making me sound really old.
I feel old too now saying that. So yeah.
But we've known each other for a long time. We have always been friends on social media, but it's just recently we've reconnected. And where we are now in our lives, like, wow. And it's been an amazing pre-Zoom catch-up of, I can't believe all this has happened in your life and all this other stuff's happened in my life. And it's like, where does that time go?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible.
And it's funny because in sharing some of the stories that we've talked about, I assume that you knew them because we've known each other for so long. But yeah, we haven't spoken for a very long time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, how do I know? You sort of go, how do I not know that? That's a massive story. That is the wow factor. How do I not know this? But that's the beauty of getting together, catching up, and it being a topical conversation. And suddenly all the memories of stories come back, don't they?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Incredible. So what do you have for us today? Because I would, if I may direct it, I would love to hear your journey and for you to share with the viewers and listeners on how you got to where you are today. And I just also want to quickly add, you have played a massive, massive role in my life for many decades within my spiritual journey, more than what you could ever imagine. More than what I'm just about want to tear up now, and I'm not going, don't cry, Michelle. It's actually quite emotional for me because you really, I think without you realizing it, you played a huge, huge role in my life. You were my mentor, my teacher. I looked up to you for everything. I was like, I want to be just like Emilia.
And look at you, you grew up better. Fantastic.
Well, that's, that, yeah, I don't know if I agree with that, but anyway, but yeah, so I would really love for you to share your journey with the viewers, because from the little that I do know, like I said, I've held you in such high regard.
Yeah, well, nice of you to say so, but I always thought, we were on the same level and just had the same thoughts, and I feel like you've been on the same journey as me, and you have, but we just haven't spoke about it, I think, really. So yeah, we're definitely on the same playing field, or we're just very similar in so many ways. But thanks for having me. And as to how I begun my journey, I think part of it is being born into it. I mean, I think we all are psychic to some degree, and it can even be like a muscle that you develop over time, and if you hone in or harness that muscle and it gets stronger. I don't know exactly how it happened. I do know that at the age of around 3, I remember looking out the back door of where I lived, and my mother was in the laundry and I was looking out the laundry, but the glass window, and we looked across to the neighbours, and the neighbours at the time was where my grandmother lived. And I was looking at their back door and I was saying to my mum, who's that lady over there? And my mum's looking over and looking around like, there's no lady there. And I said, no, Mum, right over there. And I'm pointing and I said, who's this old lady over there? And it wasn't my grandmother, but obviously looked similar. And my mum was just, no, there's no one there. No, there's no one. And again, like the next day or the day after, whatever, it went on for quite a while where I would say to her, and who's that lady over there? And it wasn't until my mother acknowledged that that lady was possibly my great grandmother who died in that house, that that lady disappeared. But she never smiled at me or she never waved or anything. She just was staring at me and I was staring at her and I was looking like, who is this lady? You know, that's all I remember thinking. Who's this lady?
Yeah.
And yeah, the fact that she just sort of disappeared before my eyes as soon as my mother said, it's probably your great grandmother. And she was kind of freaked out about it all, but eventually admitted that possibly that was it, that it dissipated. So that was probably my first sort of, not knowing, but psychic or spiritual thing that happened that was freaky to my parents, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, Now, my grandmother was always very religious and prayed to saints and so forth. And, even their background was they grew up in the war and they were in Italy. And they always prayed. Their whole village was very spiritual and they had bombings. And out of, I think there's a song made up of, out of 11 bombs, 9 didn't go off and literally landed in front of people's houses. And the 2 that did go off were out of the town. So they
Oh,
believed they're praying to the saints and they had patron saints that they prayed to. And every year they did festivals for and so forth. They believed that, in their prayers and so forth, that saved their village, which, intention and prayers and all of that, I certainly, believe in. I don't necessarily believe in, the Catholic Church as such. I don't. I grew up with Catholic, but, I'm not a practicing Catholic as such, but I do think that, they're aware of their prayers and what they're chanting and all that sort of stuff. There's a reason for all of that, but we'll get into that another time, I guess.
yeah.
um but yeah, so definitely, there's a background of knowing that prayer and spirit, and there's, higher powers as such. And that's, sort of progressed, I suppose, somehow. I don't know. There's possibly a story I could tell you at another time where an incident happened with my family that possibly shaped the way and who I am, because I'm a bit different to sort of other people in the family. But I've always had this spiritual knowing or understanding about things, and um, yeah, that sort of played a definite role in shaping my future, and shaping what happened to me. Um, and sort of growing up all through the school days and so forth, something would just pop into my head, something like I just knew things and I couldn't explain why I knew them, but I was really adamant about them, like that something had to happen or someone had to do something to prevent something. And it just would turn out and people would say, how did you know? And I'm going, I really didn't know. Um, and a little funny side note from that is I remember as a little kid thinking that if I thought something, I could change it with my mind, and being really disappointed. And still to this day, I haven't been able to turn the lights off with my mind. I've tried, but I would concentrate on the light, being too lazy to get out of bed, sometimes going, I'm sure if I concentrated hard enough. But for some reason, it just never worked for me, and still to this day hasn't. So anyway, we'll have to work on that at some stage.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you're just not trying hard enough.
Really, I wasn't. There was something not right. So I've got to work on it for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Priority.
yeah, exactly. And then going back to my school days, I remember being in high school, and my grandfather had Alzheimer's, and he'd been in a nursing home for years and years and years. Like, I don't actually remember him ever being normal, I suppose. He always had the disease, and when he was around the family and so forth. So, um, him being in the nursing home, we'd visit occasionally on trips because he wasn't local. And when he died, it was significant for me because I was sharing a room with my siblings at the time, and I dreamt about him. And in the dream, he says to me, I've just come to say goodbye. And I've said to him, we called him Nono, and I said, oh, but Nono, where are you going? And he goes, it doesn't matter where I'm going. Just know that I've come to say goodbye to everyone. And I remember looking at him intently and thinking, he's speaking English. I said, Nono, you're speaking English. And then he said to me, yes, I am, with a cheeky smile. And then I realized his lips weren't moving. So it was all telepathic. So, and I was like, oh, and I was so excited. I was probably about 8 or 9 maybe. And I was so excited to this because he'd said goodbye and he was happy and he was, jovial, and it was a good thing in my mind. And obviously it was in a dream, I thought. So I was off to sleep. And then I remember the phone ringing. I could hear in the house, and I could hear my mother answering the phone. And then not long after, she's come into the room, and she's obviously going to tell me and my siblings that Nono's died. And I've blurted out, Nono died. And she burst into tears. And I think it shocked me because I was seeing it as she was like, yeah, yes, he did. But I was seeing it as such a good thing because of him coming to me. And seeing her reaction, I think it shocked me. And I believe at that time I kind of shut it down a little bit because everyone was sort of shocked and was a bit upset with me with the way I handled the situation.
Yeah.
So, that I think changed a bit of how my future seeing things went, because it was such a shock reaction, I think. So I never got any more sort of spirit interactions much after that until later on in life when I studied hypnotherapy, and then doing trance work, and that's when it started to come out more. But in saying that, we had a priest in our town, a small town of Lakes Entrance, and it was very unheard of for priests to do exorcisms. And he would also do spiritual healings and so forth. And he knew I had a gift that I didn't know, because when you have a gift or you have something, you think everyone can do it. So
yeah,
he knew that I had I guess he called it an empath ability, and he sometimes within his sessions had me do some work where I could feel for that other person. We can go into that at another stage, but
definitely.
it was very interesting that I didn't know that I had anything, but even he knew that I had something. And obviously I was somehow always meant to do some healing or work with people. Like, that's my main intention. In fact, even with training with hypnosis, it was all about the healing process. And, everyone talks about stage hypnotists and so forth. It has no interest. I have no interest in that whatsoever, and it's all about the healing and the working with people and helping people understand how their mind works. So, and, people have a funny idea about what hypnotherapy is. And for me, it's a trance, and a trance can be done in meditation. It can be done in exercise. It can be done in yoga. It can be done, even people watching TV are quite often in a trance and wondering why they're getting programmed by TV. It's no wonder they call it a program, because that's what you get when you're watching TV. So, trance is nothing new for people. I think it's just a word that's used that people have associated with stage hypnotists, or not understanding exactly what it's all about. But so my journey with hypnotherapy, and then how that helps you to be in a state of mind where you're more open to hearing and receiving other things, and that opened up the channels for me. And then obviously just having different classes that you attend, or different hearing other people or seeing and then going, oh, what, not everyone does this, or oh, can you do it this way, or whatever it might be, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I think and then when it came to hypnotherapy, obviously I started off doing a lot of one-on-ones. And again, one of my teachers with hypnotherapy, he saw the gift that I had in being able to, feel other people's feelings, which is, something that the priest obviously knew about as well, being an empath. But it was more than being an empath, just, yes, I could hear people's thoughts and still do sometimes. I've worked hard to shut that down. And also, some funny stories where I've, been in another room and suddenly my knee has been sore, and I've gone, oh, my knee, and walked out to someone going, oh, I've just whacked my knee, and then realized, oh, my pain's gone and I've just made that up, or, like, what was that exactly? And then realized, oh, it was them, and I was just feeling it through the other room, and I have to just, be aware that this is not mine. So there's been a lot of that as well. But in saying that, as much as I shut it down, I then open it up when I do Bowen work. A work that I do is, healing with Bowen, if anyone's ever heard of that. But it comes in really handy when you want to free the body for someone, because you can feel what's going on in their body, and you often get directed to certain parts, which makes it much easier in doing that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, in the general day-to-day, it's easier if it's shut down, because otherwise you'd be, feeling everyone's this and that and all the time. And not to mention, even when I first met my husband, he would be thinking something and I would answer thinking that he said it, and he would be so annoyed that I'm answering something that he hasn't even asked yet. And then I had to really realize that I had to stop myself from and watch if they actually said it out loud or not. It can be a bit annoying when you answer something that someone hasn't asked. Yeah. So that's pretty funny too. But now I'm much more careful about that too. And sometimes it's hard, and I get impatient to, like, oh, will they just hurry up and ask the question so I can answer it already. Yes, but anyway, the things that we do when we care for another person.
That's it, exactly. The sacrifices we make.
Yeah, that's right. Even though my impatience doesn't want to. Yes, but yes, I tend to be more cautious about that these days.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, so, it's just been a journey along the way with lots of different things. I as I said, I often think that you probably know all these stories, but maybe you don't.
I don't. And it's and I think if people have been watching or listening to this regularly, would assume that I know, the people that I interview, but it's I still walk away going, how do I not know this about you? How could we have never had this conversation? Yeah. And I guess it just doesn't happen, because we're all across the world, and we don't live near each other. We live in the same country, but you're about 2,200 kilometers from me. So it's not like we get together regularly, and it's usually over Zoom if we do, and then we might be practicing something, or we're having a quick catch up and off we go again. But these individual stories just don't seem to come up, which is not a bad thing, because now we share them.
22 hours across the country to see each other. That's 22, probably more than 22 hours, but yeah, it's a bit of a drive.
Yeah, it is, just to catch up for a quick cuppa and tell a few yarns, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, exactly.
It's not going to happen. So, yeah. But it's, it's great to finally, after all these years, to hear the rest of your journey.
Yes.
And to hear and every experience is has shaped you into who you are and all that sort of thing. So what do you practice? Do you practice now? Like, what do you regularly do now, or what modality are you still interested in? Like, have you just sort of, I know life happens for people. I totally get life happens for people. So, you know, like, where are you at now?
So I always have done Bowen work for people. I do Bowen work. It's all word of mouth, and I guess I kind of like to do people who have been everywhere else and can't get results. You know, I've sort of saved a lot of people from having surgery, so to speak. So they think
Wow.
their only way to fix themselves is to have surgery, and then that someone will say, "I think you need to go and see him," and you know, and I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, great." They're the kind of the cases that I love to do, where they think they've, you know, reached the end of their fixing their bodies, and I love to remind people of how, you know, repairing your body can be something that you can manifest, you know, you can work on. Your mind plays a big part in healing your body, you know, and as much as, you know, yes, I'm a Reiki practitioner. I've done a few different healing modalities, and I've done psychic massage in the past, um and all of that healing energy comes out anyway, you know, hands-on healing. If you've got that kind of, I think, spirit, you know, where I've always been wanting to help people, then that comes through. And obviously, you know, coming through as an empath, that makes it handy. But so with Bowen, yes, you're working on the whole body. And I sometimes feel like with Bowen that the body speaks to me, and I can't really explain it, because I'm it's again back to that, just knowing, you know, understanding. My hands are on the body, and I think that I kind of warn people before my treatment, this won't be like a normal Bowen therapy, because if someone's already had one before, and if they go to someone else, they need to know that what I do is probably not Bowen anymore, but it's, I don't know what else to call it, because that's what I'm qualified in. Um, you know, maybe I should be giving it another name just for people's, you know, if they do see or have someone else. But yeah, I try to pre-warn them if I remember, because it is going to be a very different experience. And, you know, sometimes I'll be doing the treatment and you following a specific order, and then suddenly I'll say, have you had trouble with your jaw or your, you know, right ear, because I'm getting this pain or this something there? And they'll say, no, there's nothing there. And I'll keep doing what I'm doing, and then I'll feel it again there, and I'm thinking, oh, it looks like I need to go to that spot. So I'll go there and I'll push on that spot, and they'll go, oh, like I didn't know that was sore.
Yeah.
And then somehow, like in freeing that area in the jaw or whatever, correct something in their knee, and you're like, what? How? No, that doesn't work. I don't understand that. But I don't understand it, and all I can say is, if it works, then great, you know.
Yeah.
um it doesn't make sense to me or them or anything else, but they get the healing that they need, so that's the most important thing in the end.
Yeah. That's incredible. And again, like you say, the body speaks and you listen.
Yeah, and it's there is no, you know, each person is individual, and we all are individual. So yes, you can learn a modality and say, well, one size does not fit all. Yes, you can follow a process, and sure, I could be probably a good Bowen therapist just following the process of Bowen. But Tom Bowen himself said that 80% of Bowen is intuition. So if you don't use your intuition, then, you know, how,
You're
I
going to
don't
be a
know how
crap you're going to be a
effective it
crap
is at
therapist.
following. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so Bowen therapy, I love Bowen therapy. I love hypnotherapy. And most of the time I probably combine the both. And if someone's really going through something, and I quite often do not say I'm going to do a hypnotherapy. I say I'll just do a personal meditation with you. So, you know, we do a personal meditation, and that can end sort of the session with that.
Mm.
And I will, you know, help their body in the process of healing itself. Like I help teach them how they can heal their own body, I
Yeah.
guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the most important thing. And even like with hypnotherapy, at one stage, yes, I was doing one-on-one hypnotherapies, and then I got into teaching hypnotherapy. And I do feel like I will get back into, I'd like to do big groups and remind people and teach people how to heal themselves, because we quite often just don't spend enough time on ourselves and the process of healing. And, you know, we find it easier to just go to someone to do a, you know, Bowen therapy or a hypnotherapy, whatever it is that they might want to do. And I always say to my clients, if you want to have a treatment every week or every month, I'm not the person for you. But if you injure yourself or you need help, yeah, I might do 1 or 2 in a row or whatever, but I'm not the person that you come and see, you know, all the time just for fun, or, you know, just to,
Yeah.
because I don't have the time. As I said, my main priority is I'm a carer for my elderly parents at the moment. So that takes up a lot of the time. And I
Yeah.
have a farm, and, you know, I have a lot, you know, other things that I do. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
something I love, absolutely love.
That's you in a great big nutshell of, oh my God. But
Yes.
I love the way, and I think it's really important that you've said this, and you've gone into how you've learnt different modalities, and then you've put your own unique spin on them, combine
Yeah.
them, you've made them yours. And I think that's one of the biggest things people need to understand when they learn something. You're learning the foundation. What you do with it outside of that
Yeah.
is about trusting your intuition and what you need to help other people, and where that's going to, it's like you're now creating your own unique spin on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another part of my life, I was actually a hairdresser, and in the school of, you know, like at the class of, you know, I think 25 people in the class, we all learnt the same cutting techniques, you know, but we all became our unique style of hairdresser. And I think people can relate to hairdressing because they see lots of different hairdressers out there and their styles and so forth. But yeah, at one point that we all learnt the same sort of similar cutting techniques and styles and understanding of how to cut hair.
Yeah,
But yeah, your flair and your spin and all, and who you are eventually comes out.
exactly. And that's a great way of looking at it. Just using the hairdressing, I mean, that is exactly how it happens. Just like, and
Yeah.
that's, yeah, people can relate to that. Thank you so much, Emilia, for being on the show. It's you've just had such a full life. I just think, how do you fit all this in? And we're pretty much the same age. And I just think, where did you find time for all this? But clearly you have, and you've been, you're a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. I love your unique out of the box thinking and your style. Thank you so much for being you, and thank you so much for being here with me today.
Oh, thanks for having me. Been great. Thank you.
To view the show notes, head over to themediumstable.com.au. If you want to watch these episodes, head over to our YouTube channel, The Medium's Table Podcast.